Welcome to Black Voices, a series touching on the lives, stories, mishaps, and glory of being Black in America. I'm your host, Danielle Layton. I hope beginning this conversation can educate, inform, and continue the conversation on race, identity, and progression towards equality. Because being Black is just part of who we are. I hope you enjoy, and please share and join in on the comment section below. I want to know what you think. Let's start.
I definitely think that the Black Lives Matter movement was the beginning of the revolution.
You just heard a quote from the interview done by Darrah, a good friend of mine, Pace University alum and graduate student. On the first episode of Black Voices, I sit down with Darrah to talk about the Black identity and touching on her opinions of the Black Lives Matter movement. We also talk about what it means to be a Black woman. In society today, the struggle of being the quote-unquote double minority. I really enjoyed this conversation with her. She's very enthusiastic and an educated young woman who shared some interesting insight into the conversation.
Yes, I'm Darrah. I am a 23-year-old Black woman. I am from the suburbs of Maryland. My Black identity, I can say that I didn't truly know about my Black identity for myself until I came to Pace. My freshman year, when every boundary of my identity was kind of like people were banging on the little box that I grew up in of being sheltered in a Black home and being around people that were like me and lived a lifestyle like I did. And that was all challenged when I came to New York City and Pace specifically. Because here on campus, there wasn't as much diversity. Um, at least my freshman year. I think my sophomore and junior year, the school became more and more diverse. But initially, when I got here, my first thought was, where are all the Black people?
Yeah.
And I found them in one classroom at a BSU meeting. And I was like, oh, here are all 25 of us just crammed in this classroom. So, yeah.
It's a little bit about it. You mentioned the box.
Yeah.
What's that box?
The box is, I guess, just growing up and being raised to be secure in who I was and love myself without anyone outside really challenging what was placed into the box by, my parents and people that raised me and contributed to my upbringing. So I kind of had to break the walls of the box down when people started to bang on the outside of the box, say, hey, try to tell me who I was and what I should look like and how I should behave. And I think that really societal norms, my view of societal norms kind of changed because I realized that we as a society look at people through black and white or their cultures. Like, you're Black and you should act like this. You're rowdy, so we need to tame you. You're white, so you are the example of what should be, what's proper, what's acceptable. Or you're Asian or Indian, and we kind of have to put you into our box. And I felt like I had to break out of my box to be put into a different box. And it really was just me not understanding fully who I was in the world. I knew who I was in my life, in my culture, in my family. But I didn't understand who I was in the world and what that really meant. Until the incident that opened my eyes was Trayvon Martin's death.
Yeah.
That really just broke the glass, broke down the box. I was like, what is going on in our world that a young boy can just be gunned down just out of nowhere, and then nobody receives any consequences, and people think it's okay. Like, yeah, he shouldn't have been wearing a hoodie or walking around his neighborhood at night with a hoodie on. That doesn't make any sense to me. But that kind of awaken the rage that was not present in my life because I didn't see and understand that our society doesn't accept us as Black folk.
You mentioned a lot of good things, but I want to take a step back. And you said that you grew up in like a white suburbia, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Kind of talk about that, and how did you go through a crisis, kind of figuring out who you were? Did you feel like you kind of just blended, you just kind of went with the flow, and you didn't really even realize your Blackness?
Yeah. Flow. I didn't realize my Blackness. Like I said, I grew up in a home where knowing who you were personally was the forefront, was the thing that mattered the most. And my peers were all Black. I went to a predominantly Black school. No, I went to a Black school. We just had white teachers, but all of my peers were Black. So I kind of just floated through life with this unawareness of my Blackness, in a sense that it didn't cause me any issues or wasn't a challenge for me. I think it started to become a little bit of an issue when Barack Obama was running for president the first time. I believe I was in the 8th or 9th grade, and that kind of stirred all kinds of things in the pot. And people were, more open with their opinions on this Black man running for president and trying to say he's not really Black or he's not really white. Sorry, he's both. So that kind of was my growing up. And the rest of my world, outside of school and home and church, surrounded white people, but very, in my opinion, progressive white people that didn't, have any negative things to say, or they were very well trained and to keep their opinions to themselves and not be offensive. So yeah, I didn't really experience any issues with my Blackness until college.
Wow. Do you think because that was when you were finally starting like that self-discovery, you think that's why it really happened?
It was definitely the self-discovery and just being more in tune with what's going on in the world outside of my little bubble, my little box of Darrah.
So touching on, you mentioned Barack Obama and saying how he's Black, but he's mixed, and like there's a lot of conversation within the Black community on what makes you Black.
Yeah.
And there's colorism. There's racism within our own community, So how do you balance that? How do you balance that idea? How do you find your identity within a community that kind of almost shuts a certain group of people out too? Talking about, you can even bring up just being a woman. You can touch on that. But just like, how did you kind of say like, this is who I am? If you want to talk about that a little bit more.
I think I just recently got to that place where I'm like, this is who I am. And I'm a dark-skinned Black woman. So there's a whole other thing with colorism and, light skin is better than dark skin. And, let's not even bring in the hair factor as well. My coils are very kinky. But recently I've taken a look at my role within the community of our community, the Black community, of discrimination and against each other. And I've realized that I would say things like, oh, you're ghetto because of how you speak and where you come from. You're from an urban city and your vocabulary is just Ebonics. And I had my own stereotypes and judgments of my own people, and I've just recently accepted that that's not acceptable, that's not okay. And what I need to be doing as a Black person is uplifting other Black people and not conforming to what society outside of our community says is okay and what we should look like. We all come from different backgrounds and different levels of culture. We're all from different areas. We're not just from America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we included in the Black community is West Indian culture, which is a big thing in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to just kind of get to know each other better, and we have to stop this colorism thing.
I know.
I just don't understand. It goes way back to slave times where, you know, the lighter skin were put in the house. You know, you had field Negroes and house Negroes, and we've just kind of carried that mindset along with us, and I'm not even sure how we can break that cycle, how we can end that. Some people don't want to be educated. Some people don't want to change, you know, what they know, and I think it starts with introspection. You have to really look into who you are and your role within the community and how you're affecting the change that is being halted.
Yeah. You touched on so much there. I'm like,
sorry.
You just went in. So I just want to talk about hashtag Black Lives Matter. You know, that whole movement that was very big last year, and it kind of died down a little bit this year. I'm not sure. I'm sure things are still happening, but they have died down in media at least. But I wanted to get your perspective on, you know, how you felt when they did, you know, come about last year and the things that they're doing amidst the horrors that were happening with Michael Brown or, you know, Trayvon Martin. How did you feel your identity was being challenged, maybe, shifted, maybe, and kind of like how your role maybe changed in the middle of that? Like, what did you feel you needed to do? And how did you feel your voice kind of could make an impact during those times?
And I think that if the original people didn't come together initially and form this group to say, hey, we matter and it's important that the world knows that our lives matter and are important, then we would still be in the same situation and place that we were before they came. And I think that they really helped our generation find its voice. And being able to be fearless and go out and protest and say, hey, we're not going to take this type of treatment anymore. And for me, I was elated that they were out here protesting and organizing and holding town hall meetings and being all over social media, and it made me want to get involved. Like, I went out several times protesting in the streets, and that was an experience that brought me back to the civil rights movement and what that really meant and the hard work that it takes for change. And it changed me in a way that I felt like I did have a voice and that I can say whatever I need to be said because it's how I feel and it's accurate. And it gave me the power and the courage to really speak to, you know, white people and people that are racist against Black people and other minorities, to say, no, I'm not going to sit here and let you continue to speak this way or talk this way to, you know, our faces or appropriate our culture and who we are and think it's okay. I'm no longer going to sit back and watch it happen. I now have a voice and I now have a movement of thousands of people behind me that is going to stand with me. It's so hard to stand alone in situations and movements against racism. And Black Lives Matter gave thousands of people, even millions of people, a chance to say, we have a community that feels the same way that I do, and that they're going to stand behind me. We're going to stand together. And for the first time in a long time, the Black community has been a united front. We've been united in a lot of things, and I think people have forgotten that we as a people, the only way for us to make change and break the chains on our lives is for us to stand together and be united, because that's how we got this far, is from being united. So people can say whatever they want about Black Lives Matter and what they're doing. They can disagree, whatever, but ultimately, it's a plus for the community.
Yeah. What impact is the Black Lives Matter movement making now, as opposed to the impact that figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made? What is the difference? Why is it so much more powerful now?
I think it's more powerful now because, one, we have social media. You can't say, you no longer can use the excuse that you don't see it, because it's everywhere, and as soon as you attach the hashtag with it, everybody has access to see what's really going on. And I also think that as opposed to the civil rights movement, I wasn't there, so I'm not exactly sure, but it's including, teachings and philosophies from Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Farrakhan, all of these leaders, and Black Panthers. All of these theories and philosophies are in one group, and we found a way for them to work together for our benefit. Whereas in the beginning of the civil rights movement, everything was kind of separate and people had opposing views and they had to learn to work together. But now it's like, we as Black people, we have this history and we know what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And so now we're just incorporating and integrating it all together to make it work. And then we have all different kinds of people. We have more allies that are not minorities that are standing with us from all over the world. There's people in other countries that are protesting with us when we protest, and that kind of thing was definitely not happening then.
And that's a very interesting point, because a lot has changed. There has been improvements, but there's so much more that needs to be changed and improved and progressed. But you mentioned social media, but why is it that we have voices from other communities chiming in now as opposed to then? It's like that really came to mind. It's like, why? Did you not care then, or is it what is it? What do you think?
I'm thinking from like research that I've done, and I took a cultural competency class this summer in my grad program, so I got a little bit more information. But as the generations progress, some people are still teaching their children racism, and it's so deeply ingrained in who they are that they don't even realize it. And then you have those individuals who are teaching their children, that racism and discrimination of any kind toward anyone is just unacceptable. So you kind of have two sets of people coming up in a generation, because there's people in our generation that are severely racist, and they don't even know that they are racist, and they have no idea why they're racist. And it's hard to talk to those people, because you have to explain to them that, I don't know, like calling cornrows and plaits boxer braids is not okay. Wearing blackface for Halloween is not okay. It's a problem. So I think that is one of the reasons that we have a lot more people from other cultures and other backgrounds being a part of our movement. And then because of social media, again, it's gone global. People can literally get on their phones, computer, watch on the news what's happening. And it's been so televised lately. Like, we watched Trayvon Martin's trial live. I remember being at work and it was on every single TV in the office. You can watch it live. It's happening, and people are talking about it more.
It's so true. And you just have to and I think that's where it comes down to, like, just remembering like what voice we have, and that it really does matter at the end of the day, and we shouldn't have to wait on anything to happen to say something.
Right.
And the power in just doing this, you know, simple as recording our opinions and sharing it with the world. But, you know, going back to the Black identity, I want to touch on specifically just being a Black woman. And I just think that, you know, it's so powerful. We're so powerful.
Yeah.
And, you know, and just sharing your experiences on being a Black woman and the challenges some challenges that you faced in society today. You know, just touching on that a little bit.
He is a Black woman in society.
I know.
Wow. I think for me, I've become more comfortable in my identity as a Black woman, and I've also been educated on what it's like to be a Black woman in our society from older women who've gone through it. Specifically professionally, it's so hard to be a Black woman professionally on any level because we're like at the low end of the totem pole here. We are on the lowest of the lows. No one respects us because we're women first, and then add on top of that we're Black women. That's just like, you don't exist. They expect us to be invisible. And so for me, earlier on in my life, starting in college, I noticed that I would do things professionally and socially to kind of like make myself disappear and fit in wherever I can fit in. And I think the biggest example is I have locks, and I've had locks since summer of 2012. And I've gone on interviews where people are like, "Are you going to change your hair? Are you going to take those out?" And it would make me uncomfortable to have to experience that. And for a while, I didn't have an answer for them. I was just like, "Oh, you'd expect me to just cut my hair off and start from scratch, or what? Put a wig on? I don't know what you want from me." And I would always spend so much time just on my hair to make sure it looked presentable for an interview, and try to lay down baby hairs I don't have. Like, I have naps and kinks, and that's okay. And I had to get to a point where I was like, "No, I'm not cutting my hair. No, I'm not changing my hair. This is my hair. This is who I am. It's a part of me." And I think that was one of the first incidents that I had from being a Black woman, trying to change my appearance and how I presented myself. I'm always self-conscious about how I present myself in the world because, you know, I have that subconscious thought that I represent the whole Black community, and I represent women as a whole as well. So I have to be the best of the best. I have to look a certain way. I have to behave a certain way. Otherwise, the negativity is going to fall back on the community as a whole. And I'm just now getting to a point where I'm just like, I can only be me. And being me includes being Black. And now I'm in a place where I'm exploring what being Black really means to me. And I've learned that being Black gives me freedom. It's so freeing to understand and know that my melanin is popping, and people want to be like me. People want to tan. People want to, you know, curl their hair and dress like I dress, and, you know, make their bodies look like how my body naturally looks. And that's amazing to me, that I was just born with this gift of being a Black woman. And I'm just now accepting and getting comfortable with that. And I guess being Black to me is just freedom and happiness and enjoying that experience. I'm enjoying learning about different cultures in our community and learning about what it meant to get cornrows as a slave, how they were maps toward freedom and messages to each other because they couldn't speak, and about African culture and the fabric and what that means and what that represents, and why we celebrate how we celebrate. Why are we making all these big feasts for Thanksgiving, and why do we celebrate Juneteenth and things like that, and just basking in the glory that is Blackness.
I think that's a perfect ending to our interview. Thank you so much. This was good. Do you want to have, anything lasting words that you want to say?
Sure. Be proud in your Blackness, guys. It's important, and don't let anyone try to define who you are. And if you're a mixed person and you're kind of floating around and trying to figure out where you fit in and where you belong, this is the most important time for you to explore self-discovery and just say, I'm a part of both worlds, and that's okay. That doesn't take away anything about me. The color of your skin does not define who you are. Who you are and how you present yourself to the world defines who you are. That's
it. Thank you so much, Darrah.
You're
welcome. We'll talk soon.
Yes, we will.
I hope you enjoyed that segment with Darrah. There's so much more to come. We have some more interviews in store, and I'm just really excited for the series and what it's going to represent. And I just really hope that you got a lot of insight, as much as I did. Speaking with Darrah, she touched on so many things, just being a Black woman, and being a dark-skinned woman, that colorism, touching on colorism within the Black community. Racism really is everywhere, but it's how you define race and how you choose to let it define you that is so important. So, just continuing this conversation, please, please, please leave your comments below. I want to get some more insight from you all and just continue this dynamic topic. It's such a topic that, we need to still have, because there's still things that need to be fixed. There's still things that need to come to light. And doing something like this it's starting that. It's helping with the progression. So please share your voices. Any voices matters. It really does. But I just choose to focus on the Black voice. Thank you, and stay tuned for more.